To the Catch Up with Sia. I am your host, Sia Kologombayaza, and today this is our first episode. And in today's session, we are going to be basically talking about media ethics. We're going to be applying media ethics in one of the case studies. Those case studies involve. The ongoing war that is currently happening in Ukraine, the war between Russia and Ukraine. So we're going to be using media ethics to analyze the style of reportage. So we're going to be using media ethics and the style of reportage to analyze that case study. So we're going to use and apply the style of reporting of media ethics to analyze that case study. So basically, firstly, what we're going to do is to define what are media ethics and how, which styles of reporting of violence are there. So now, media ethics are ethical issues or areas of ethics that deals with moral issues and standards of media communication. So it's media ethics are area of ethics with moral issues and standards of media communication. So now, when it comes to reportage, there are different styles of reportage. There's war journalism, there's peace journalism. These are the styles, so they're very different. So let's start with peace journalism. So peace journalism is a style of reporting that aims to treat war and conflict with balance. So peace journalism basically emphasize on peace resolution. So it emphasizes on peace resolution. Why? War journalism, on the other side, war journalism, it focuses on conflict and war, but it doesn't focuses on the balance of it. It focuses on the consequences of war and conflict. So that's the difference. So now, before I talk about the case study, let's talk about the context of violence in Ukraine. So now, the context of violence in Ukraine is very complex. So now, there are so many causes. One of the causes of the war is that of the historical and cultural ties between Ukraine and Russia. So it's because of the historical and cultural ties between Russia and Ukraine that dates back to medieval eras. So that is one of the causes of the war between Russia and Ukraine. I'm just going through the context of violence in Russia before we analyze the case study. We're just going to talk about the context of violence in Ukraine before analyzing the case study. Now, the war started in 2014. The war in Ukraine started in 2014, but it escalated to 2023 when Russia invaded Ukraine. So the war escalated to 2023 when Russia invaded Ukraine with military operations, and their aim was to overthrow the Ukrainian government. Basically, their aim was to overthrow the Ukrainian government. So, I have talked about one of the causes. As I've said, the context of violence in Ukraine is very complex. It's very broad. So there are so many causes of war in Ukraine. But today I'm just gonna talk of that one cause. So now let's go to the case study that we'll be talking about in today's show. So in today's session, we'll be basically talking about a case study that involves a city in Kyiv. We're basically analyzing the style of reportage in that case study. Was it ethical? Was it not ethical? So that's basically what we're doing. So now, the style of reportage in that case study is what we'll be analyzing in today's show. So the case study, let me just give you a background check of the case study. So the case study talks about how Russia attacked Ukraine using drones, attacked the city of Kyiv using drones. Now let's talk about the consequences. So Russia attacked Ukraine using drones, and that affected several districts. That's one of the consequences. It affected several districts, and there are other cities that are also affected. Now, so it affected several districts, but there were no casualties reported. So Russia attacked Ukraine and there are no casualties reported. That's the good part. No casualties reported, but the bad part is that it affected several districts. So now, in this case study, Russia did not only attack Ukraine, but Ukraine attacked back at Russia, destroying the military bases of Russia. So now, both of these two countries attacked each other. So there are both consequences in these two countries. The first attack that was made by Russia affected several districts, and the attack that was made by Ukraine affected military bases. So they deal with consequences. So it's a reportage on war and consequences of that war. It's a reportage on war and conflict and consequences of that war and conflict. I feel like the perfect style of reporting that was used here was war journalism. War journalism was the perfect style of reporting that was used here. So now, I'm going to explain who wrote the case study. I'm going to write in the show who wrote the article. Credit the person. I'm going to credit the person. So now let's talk about the style of reportage. As I've said, the style of reportage, I feel like it's war journalism in such a way that the way that they reported, it consisted of conflict and war, but not only conflict and war, but also consequences of conflict and war between Russia and Ukraine. So it didn't like emphasize on peaceful resolution. There were no peaceful resolutions there. So there was conflict and war and consequences of conflict and war between Russia and Ukraine. That's the part. So what was the reportage ethical or unethical? That's the question, which is a great question. So I'm gonna respond to this based on my personal perspective. I think the whole reportage was ethical, because now I did mention what's the meaning of media ethics, but I didn't mention what is the whole idea between media what is the whole idea of media ethics. I didn't mention that. So the whole idea of media ethics is truth, is to seek truth and reporting it. That's one of the ideas. There are so many, but that's one of the ideas that was used. There was a reportage of facts. Truth was sought, and people reported on truth. So I think it was ethical. The style of reportage was ethical because truth was sought and truth was reported. So there were facts reported. The consequences of drones attack between Ukraine and Russia were reported. Which city, Kyiv, was attacked, and which military bases that suffered the attacks. Again, it was Russia's military bases. So truth and facts were reported. I feel like we have covered everything that I've introduced before going on with the show. So if you want to know and catch more episodes, you can catch us on our YouTube channel at the Catch Up with Sia 28. That's where you'll find other episodes, and like the conversation is still ongoing, guys. Click on our YouTube channel at the Catch Up with Sia 28, and then through comments, send us your thoughts about the way ethics apply, the way media ethics apply, and the style of reporting apply in this case of Ukraine. But that is it for me today. So peace and love and peace. Spread the love all the way.